So here is Jeb Bush trying to argue that somehow Donald Trump is way out of bounds, in over his head, in saying that George Bush was the president during the months and actually the day that 9/11 happened. Here we go.
Trump just minutes ago responded saying, quote, Jeb Bush should stop trying to defend his brother and focus on his own shortcomings and how to fix them. Now here with us in the flesh to respond is former Florida Governor Jeb Bush. Governor, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Jake.
So what are you objecting to about Mr. Trump's remarks about 9/11 and your brother?
Look, my brother responded to a crisis, and he did it as you would hope a president would do. He united the country, he organized our country, and he kept us safe. And there's no denying that. The great majority of Americans believe that, and I don't know why he keeps bringing this up. It doesn't show that he's a serious person as it relates to being commander-in-chief and being the architect of a foreign policy across the spectrum.
Pause it for a second. Now, presumably, Jeb Bush knew he was going on CNN to discuss this. And the best answer he can get is to sort of deny that George Bush was there, and he kept us safe. I mean, except for that one mulligan. And then, I mean, look, you are a presumed front runner, or at least you were, right? It's not like you've never seen anybody run for president. Your dad did. Your brother did. You go on the news program, the thing to do is just to jot down like a little bit, like, I'm going to say this. This is going to be my response. I know why I'm coming here. In fact, I probably asked to be on to criticize Donald Trump. So what you want to do is have like a little cheat sheet that says like, Donald Trump shouldn't say this because blah, blah, blah. You don't say this makes him unserious as commander-in-chief. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. You could say something like, he's fixated on the past. He has no plan for the future. I mean, there's a million cliches you could use here, but I guess Jeb Bush just felt like he could wing it, and then he sort of falls on his face. Continue.
Foreign policy, Mr. Trump talks about things that as though he's still on The Apprentice. I mean, literally talking about Syria, saying ISIS should take out Assad, then Russia should take out ISIS, as though it was some kind of board game and not a serious approach. This is just another example of the lack of seriousness.
Second. I mean, there are literally boards where the military people probably have, like, here's Assad's forces, here's ISIS forces. Talking like it's a board game, like he's strategizing. Now, you could say that strategy doesn't make any sense because of substantive reasons. We can't trust Russia will be interested in helping the Syrian situation unless they feel that they have a client state there. And if ISIS takes over, then it's just going to unleash all sorts. There's some substantive critiques. But to say, like, all he's doing is trying to strategize, that doesn't really cut it. Again, here's a tip for you. If you're running for president and you know you have like a moment where you're going to be on the news, just jot yourself like a couple of notes. Just say, like, here's my bullet points, something like that. And also just, do some exercise where, like, maybe you expand your arms out like this, and it makes yourself feel like you filled the room.
Are you telling Jeb to raise his energy levels?
I'm saying basically raise your energy
look
levels.
at you.
Go ahead. Continue.
And this is a serious time. We're under grave threats again, and I think we need a president with a steady hand.
To play devil's advocate, do you think it's at all possible that your loyalty to your brother, while very admirable on a personal level, might be in some ways a political or policy liability, blinding you to mistakes he made?
No, I mean, so next week Mr. Trump is probably going to say that FDR was around when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. It's what you do after
Pause
that.
it. Now, this sounds like it was a line that they came up with beforehand, right? I mean, this sounds like a set piece, like a quip, sort of. But let's break this down. Next, Donald Trump is going to say that FDR was around when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Now, I'm not in front of a Wikipedia thing, so I'm doing this off the top of my head. But wasn't FDR president when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor? This is the comeback? What else is Jeb going to say? Like, next we're going to hear that, like, I don't know, that Barack Obama was president last year, or
Jimmy Carter was
John F. Kennedy was president during, I don't know, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I mean, I don't think that that's a serious thing from a serious person to say about serious times in a serious situation. Seriously, Jake. Serious.
Now, we do have to say that my guess is that FDR did not get a document while on vacation sometime in, let's say, November, right? That would have been a month before Pearl Harbor, saying Japanese determined to strike Pearl Harbor. I mean, one could imagine, even if he had, his response wouldn't have been like George Bush's.
You covered your asses. All right, now you've covered your asses. Now I'm going to go continue.
Shoot some quail.
Shoot some quail. Yes. Why would I be worried about the Japanese when the Dutch are the real threat to global stability?
That's right. I hope you're satisfied with yourself.
That was the classic Bush line, right?
Yes, that's the way he responded.
Give
Why
it.
not go get yourself a Pim's cup and just leave me alone?
Great, good, gentlemen. You won't be blamed whatever happens. Fine. Now go bother one of my relatives. There's plenty of them on the compound. You've covered your asses.
Your ass is covered. Your derriere has been shrouded in cloth. So move on. All right, keep going.
Matters, and that's the sign of leadership. It's not does anybody actually blame my brother for the attacks on 9/11? If they do, they're totally marginalized in our society.
Pause it.
It's what he did.
There actually are some people who don't necessarily blame your brother for the attack, but do say that he's got to be responsible for the lack of preparation, the lack of security, the lack of urgency that the administration prior to him exhibited in this respect. Continue.
Afterwards that matter, and I'm proud of him, and so are a bunch of other people. You don't have to have your last name named Bush to be able to understand that. It just calls.
Although it probably helps significantly and statistically speaking.
Good. To question Mr. Trump's credibility as a commander-in-chief and an architect of the next generation foreign policy, which we desperately need in this country right now.
Obviously, Al-Qaeda was responsible for the terrorist attack of 9/11. But how do you respond to critics who ask, if your brother and his administration bear no responsibility at all, how do you then make the jump that President Obama and Secretary Clinton are responsible for what happened at Benghazi?
Well, it's the question on Benghazi, which is hopefully will now finally get the truth to, is was the place secure? They had a responsibility in the Department of State to have proper security. There were calls for security. It looks like they didn't get it. And how was the response in the aftermath of the attack? Was there a chance that these 4 American lives could have been saved? That's what the investigation is about. It's not a political issue. It's not about the broad policy issue. Were we doing the job of protecting our embassies and our consulates? And during the period, those hours after the attack started, could they have been saved?
Okay, pause. Okay, so what's clear here from what felt like a 14-minute gap between Jake Tapper's question and Bush's answer, and then Bush's answer, which is so easily the parallels drawn here, is that Jeb did not even anticipate for a moment on the beginning of the week where Benghazi's going to be all the rage, that he would get this question. I mean, this guy, one really has to now, I think, I mean, when you look at how this guy campaigned, you really are compelled to go back and investigate how he was elected governor of Florida. I mean, what? Are you kidding me? Go ahead.
That's kind of proving the point of the critics I was just asking about, because you don't want to have your brother bear responsibility for 9/11, and I understand that argument, and Al-Qaeda is responsible, but why are the terrorists not the ones who are responsible for these attacks in Libya?
They are. Of course they are, but if the ambassador was asking for additional security and didn't get it, that's a proper point. And if it's proven that the security was adequate compared to other embassies, fine, we'll move on.
All right, so there you have it, folks. Jeb Bush, basically, this is like really the functional equivalent of a guy turning on like a huge saw blade and walking into it and just being mystified at how all of this is going down. I turned on the saw blade and I'm walking into it. Why is this hurting so much? Unbelievable. Really unbelievable.
We need serious answers for serious times. Benghazi's sort of different because that involves Hillary, and she's a bitch, right?
I mean,
I'm a little rusty at this.
There was.
That was basically his reasoning.
Jake, when I ran for governor, the media was very, very different at the time.
I would come out and I would be like, black kids stop dressing like that and take more tests. And people said I was bold and innovative. I don't know what the hell is going on now.
I was a policy expert at that time.
I would say, why don't you brush your teeth more, black people? And then they wanted me at the Aspen Institute. And now all of a sudden, I'm supposed to answer questions about everything when it's serious. We're in a serious time.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, I'm tired. So exhausted.